Evangelistic leg. As I think I've said before in a couple of other videos, it is my opinion that when churches that are hostile or frightful of apostolic gifts and apostolic ministry want apostolic gifts to grow and expand their churches, they go after a gift that's similar in some ways in that it connects to bringing people into the church, connects to certain kinds of charismatic speaking, but a gift more associated with a kind of personality that is more motivated by external desires of what people want. And so I think sometimes church planting committees, when spiritually they don't want to say the word apostle, they go after an evangelist. And so a certain amount of church planting projects happen on the energy and charisma of evangelists, and they have short, cyclical bursts of growth. They have a lack of the kind of missional structure that and plan that you will find. Let me say this very carefully. I don't know that you would find apostles always organized, but there's always a sense of strategy, if that makes any sense at all. Strategy that's either organized or disorganized, but is strategy. And usually a sense of ability to delegate, which is not always found in either of those in evangelists. So, I spent some time parallel to involvement with another church, assisting in some ways a church plant whose leader was a good friend of mine for the time, who was clearly an evangelist. We could discuss fivefold ministry things. Everything cycled back for him to evangelism. I think that this is the key to the problem that needs to be unlocked with, where we need one leader to do everything, is that they will find that their gift is strangely in their own imagination. It's the holy grail solution to all problems. HR problem, solve it with evangelism. Worship problem, solve it with evangelism. Financial problem, solve it with evangelism. I think you can see where I'm going with this. This group was able to have a certain degree of community because, among other things, evangelists gather crowds. A certain degree of teaching, because there were people who were teaching long as they were not moving away from that evangelism emphasis. Now, I remember a very specific story. This man had such a belief in the need for everyone to be 110% sold out on evangelism as the thing this church does, even though it's his gift. That I think, if I remember correctly, there was an email sent out maybe 9 o'clock on a Friday announcing an all hands on deck physical tracked door-to-door outreach Saturday morning the next day. Had not been discussed. The church had not been inquired as to whether or not people had plans or were available, and it was kind of a, if you're really on board, you're at this thing. If you're really a sincere member, you're at this thing. And it was very surprising to me to see that it caused this real strange division that I think led to eventually the end point. Well, there was a couple of end points. It's very strange. They kept sending in people to fill in blanks, but I think there were 25, no, maybe 50 people in this church, and I think 5 showed up who were his most hardcore. And they were like, where is everybody? And the remainder, if you could get them to talk candidly, were really kind of bothered and shocked how their own personal lives and how their own families were not taken into account, and they were being perceived as lesser for not participating, for not having, moved their calendar. And his perspective was the church is your family. And the church is your family. But I would like to see if there's any leader of any church that can get away with, I need 100%, I'm going to give you guys 8 hours notice, and we're all going to be there, regardless of whether or not you have softball, macrame, bowling league, band practice, date night, anything. So there was a single-minded focus that, there was no other things that really mattered to that church. I tried to say, hey, why don't we have a teaching series where you and I share the duties of that and talk about fivefold ministry. And we divided up, who was talking about apostolic and who was talking about prophetic and et cetera, et cetera. And he kind of canceled it by doing research in all 5 and doing the whole thing himself. So I don't know why he and I spent a whole evening talking it out, but there was a sense that he had to do it himself. Brothers and sisters, no one has to do it himself. So, in this case, in this evangelism-led church, the focus on evangelism as the central and most important gift gave them some community and some teaching. Really removed the possibility of other gifts functioning, other focuses functioning in that church. If I have blessed you or encouraged you, please like and subscribe.